So we've both watched this before,
Yes, sir.
and I thought watching it again might give me a different point of view because the first time I thought it was kind of boring.
It has those moments though, because when I first watched it, I didn't really feel that, but as I watched it again, I kind of did.
The first hour of the movie is set up of like the characters and stuff, and then
Yeah,
there's 9 minutes of Godzilla destroying Tokyo.
which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's the meat
I
right there.
love that.
And
Love
then
that part of it.
after that, there's like 30 more minutes of them destroying Godzilla.
Before it gets to like Godzilla destroying stuff, just kind of. I wouldn't say it felt boring. Maybe it's because I've seen the movie recently. I kind of already knew what happened, but it just kind of felt slow.
It wasn't just because it's dialogue. Like, I like dialogue heavy movies, obviously. But just the stuff they were saying, a lot of it's just like reactions and them like freaking out, trying to figure out what to do about Godzilla.
I'm trying to explain Godzilla. I like what it tries to portray. Obviously, this film comes out about a couple of years apart from the end of World War II. Many people know how that ended. And I just like the message it sends overall.
Yeah, it was cool how Godzilla is just a symbol for
Yeah.
the bomb.
I love Godzilla the kaiju, the monster. But at the same time, especially in this film, I love the symbol he is, like you said, the message he sends, the whole point of this movie.
There's just so many lines of dialogue that are clearly so reflective of that. Like they have the oxygen destroyer, which is like the only thing that'll destroy Godzilla. And they're like debating whether or not they should use it. Like other countries might catch on and use it for evil, and so there's just like this debate like should we fire back? So yeah, the message is really deep, and that's like the coolest part about it. It's just funny that the whole series, like this is the only movie with that heavy
Yeah,
message behind it. The rest is literally just big kaiju battles.
kaiju. Yeah, kaiju action.
And I'd hate to say it, but that's kind of the Godzilla I prefer. I mean, this is kind of its own thing. It's great in its own way. But as a
Honestly,
series, I like seeing him kick big monsters'
it
asses. Like,
makes. I think it makes for. I don't want to say a better movie, but maybe a more engaging movie.
there's more action.
Yeah, it's because I feel like there's a lot you gotta like in this movie. Like first time I watched it, especially being that it's like literal dialogue. Like I have to read what they're saying because I don't understand their language. They say a lot of stuff that you like really need to pick up on to really fully understand what they're dealing with. Like because it's like it's very science heavy, even if the science is bullshit. And the other movies, it kind of just turns into monsters fighting. Like
Well, yeah,
I don't
that's
even really know. I haven't really seen these.
those parts is what engaged me when they're explaining stuff. It's when they tried to like give like go into the characters' stories and stuff. That's when I like just did not care. I liked Sarazawa. He's the
Yeah,
doctor who invented the oxygen destroyer because he had like an arc kind of at the end where he uses his weapon.
Serizawa and the other, like the guy with the mustache.
The grandfather or the dad, I
Father.
mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, those two are
I really,
actually good characters. I like them.
yeah,
But there's
I really like
so
that.
many others that just blend right in, and I don't know who any of them are. I think it's just the studio in general. They all their movies are kind of like that. These movies are so slow and full of like useless dialogue, and the fight is like 10 minutes. I mean, every Godzilla film has this problem. I mean, I haven't seen them all, but even like the new Godzilla vs Kong, they cut down on the dialogue, but it's still not enough. Like all we want to see is monsters fighting.
I feel like the new film did a pretty good job. It was like 45 minutes of fighting. I don't know. For this film, I feel like it works because this film, like Godzilla, he is the monster in this film, but I feel like he's not exactly like the focal point.
Well, yeah, that's because he's literally symbolizing something entirely.
Yeah. So I feel like the point is to more explain what he symbolizes, the message of the film,
The damage he
rather.
caused on Tokyo, not
Yeah.
really the monster itself. Yeah, and that's why it works in this movie. And then in the sequels, where it's literally him fighting giant monsters.
Yeah. Then it just turns into Godzilla's cool and make him fight.
I'm all for, but these early movies, I tried binge watching them, and these early ones are hard to watch.
I haven't seen him yet, so that'll be new for me. I
Um,
actually didn't even think it looked bad. Like when he was like
those, yeah.
destroying things, maybe the black and white actually kind of helps that. Maybe in color it'd be more obvious that he's just like little fucking toys being destroyed.
That's the coolest part to me. Their use of toys and like little model villages and stuff, and then like the big rubber suit. It's like a style of filmmaking that only this genre used, and it's really cool to see. Just the way they shot it, like the way they figured out how to get this big monster to destroy a city is really cool.
It can be cheesy, but I do enjoy it.
It's just fun to look at. It's like I can just imagine everyone on set having a blast, just like stepping on this city and shooting fire everywhere. And then by far the best part is the music. That single soundtrack is so iconic. It's like one of the most iconic soundtracks ever.
It never gets old.
Yeah, it's so intense. And when they use it throughout the movie, especially when he's destroying Tokyo, it's awesome. And also just the sound design in general, like his roar sounds fucking awesome. So overall, I think everything I've said brings me to a 7 out of 10. I think it's a good movie. It's just boring. Like, at the end of the day, it's just boring to watch for me. I've watched it twice now. It's just kind of, that's how it is. It's a product of its time. It's not really its fault.
No, I definitely gotta like kind of agree with that too. But I love the message, the symbolism. I love obviously Godzilla. I give it an A.
Holy shit.
I really like this movie. Really do. I honestly thought I was going to
can't
give it.
see myself watching it again, though, ever. I mean, maybe I'm just shallow, but I'd just rather watch him fighting other cool monsters.
I'm taking it for the message it gives and the time it came. It's a very old film. It's a 54
But
film.
considering that, I love...
Cheap budget.
I would give King Kong like a 9 out of 10, and that was in the 30s.
King Kong's... Because that shit's a classic.
That shit's amazing. Like,
it has
I
a
love
great
it.
story, good characters. It looks fantastic. And it's 20 years older than this and looks better.
Yeah.
The film is simply amazing. I don't know what their budgets are compared to this. This film just comes off as really cheap, Godzilla.
I think it was just Japan at the time. I don't think they had like a big film audience.
That was new. That was newer. They were newer.
That's what I mean. Like, this was kind of their first like shot
really
into the film industry. Even with its hammy and dated effects, Godzilla still holds up as a pretty effective monster movie, even more than most modern adaptations. Its post-war commentary centering around the giant lizard monster created from nuclear radiation is very well executed to be on the nose yet still focused on the main story.
Yes, sir.
It was boring to me, but it was the original. I should try watching it again. I love that because it's accurate. It's like, it's almost like, what did I miss? Like, everyone says this is a masterpiece. It's the best. It's the original one. It spawned this whole franchise. It feels like you're kind of missing something.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is. I think, again, people are more in love with the concept of Godzilla more than this movie itself. I think most of these people didn't even watch the movie. Very dark and very haunting. There was some really... Like, there's a mother holding her 2 kids saying, like, we're going to see your father soon.
Just showing, like, all the fucking deceased people and the kids who have radiation.
Yeah, there's a bunch of kids who are irradiated and their mothers were dead and they're just... All this destruction. And that was, like, the most impactful part. It's like, look at all this damage that Godzilla, in quotations, did.
Not as good as the original.
No.
It barely felt like a Godzilla movie. I don't know. It felt like there was like 2 parts that were like involved Godzilla, and then the rest kind of just no one was concerned about Godzilla at all.
Besides the first one, because I've seen like the first 5 Godzilla movies.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is definitely the start of the trend where it gets less and less focused on Godzilla.
That continues on.
Yeah, the next one's really bad about that.
Dude, I was kind of hoping I was going to be like, oh, this movie, and then they'd be like, oh, that was stupid, and kind of, I don't know, because I had a hard time, like, focusing during those parts. Like, that part when they're having, like, that party and shit.
I was able to get more out of the story on my second watch now, just because I remembered everyone. But yeah, it's really not interesting at all, and there's too many characters. Same with the first one, honestly.
There were a lot of characters. The only one I really could like remember as like a main character was a guy who fucking smashed into the mountain because he dive bombed at Godzilla.
Yeah, that was he became the main character. He was like the best friend, and he was like lonely, didn't have a girlfriend. And then you find out he does have a girlfriend, and then he dies.
So that was like almost like the main plot.
Yeah, the whole point of like the character stuff was focusing on this guy who was like a loner, and then he dies. He smashes into a mountain, and it's like, well, who the fuck cares?
But he showed them the way.
He showed them how to like bury Godzilla in ice. That was their ultimate plan, to kill Godzilla. No one seemed to really care. The movie ended as soon as Godzilla was buried under the ice. There was no mention of Kobayashi again.
I just find it kind of goofy that the whole plot is about this guy who gets no girls, and you find out he has a girl, and he fucking dies. And then when he dies, it conveniently shows how to bury Godzilla, and then so it's like he's a heroic sacrifice, and you were supposed to feel bad because it turns out he does have a girl.
They tried to have a character plot in a Godzilla movie, and it just doesn't work. It never worked.
The human element was in the original, at least it was like focused. There was a lot of human part, but I feel like it was focused. It was like centered around Godzilla and the whole symbolism.
Yeah, and let's talk about like the main draw to this movie was that there's another monster, Anguirus.
Yeah, Anguirus.
Who's just an ankylosaurus. And so like the big draw is that, oh, they're gonna fight. A big kaiju battle. That's what we've always wanted to see. That's what the franchise is all about. And it actually was. I hated it the first time I saw it. But now, after watching it again, it actually wasn't that bad.
I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a lot.
It was, yeah, like Anguirus is really cool, and his roar is incredible. It's awesome.
Oh, is that? I actually, I wouldn't say loved it, but I really liked it. I think they try to make it look like they're biting each other, but it kind of just looks like you're banging two action figures together.
Because the rubber on the suit is just moving. Like Anguirus' head is just rubber, so it's just getting like smashed
just flying
in.
all over the place.
Yeah. The only reason I think it's better now rewatching it is because in the next few, the fighting is so awful.
Oh, it gets worse.
It gets so much worse. Godzilla kicks like foam rocks. That's all he does is kick rocks at people. They don't even like hit each other anymore.
I was gonna say, like, at least they're just like, it looks like two monsters just like slugging it.
And they're fighting. Yeah, they're actually hitting each other.
And I like the destruction. I was like smashing into buildings. Like when he like fucking threw Anguirus through that building.
Yeah, that looked great.
Pagoda. All that stuff was great.
As usual, the city destruction stuff is awesome, and watching small sets get stomped on by guys in suits is...
it's fun.
It's awesome, yeah. So for that, like, again, just like the first movie, it was like 9 minutes where they fight. That was the cool part. That's where I was engaged.
And then he kills Anguirus.
For the next 45 minutes, it's the human stuff again, until the very end where it's 20 minutes of them burying Godzilla in ice.
Yeah, the ending was kind of weird.
The ending was awful. The effects of this movie are horrible. Like, I guess not the effects, but just the way they reuse shots.
Yeah, they just kept using the same shots to keep showing like the obvious. Like, we get it. You're burying them in ice.
It was slow motion of ice falling, and then they like flip the shot and show it again, and then there's an explosion, and they use the same explosion sound effect over and over.
It was repetitive. It was dragged on.
It wasn't even the ice part. That was like the worst of it. But even throughout the rest of the movie, when he's trying to like look for his friend.
Oh yeah, the very beginning, he's flying around.
It's like the same shot, and like he's looking for his friend on the island, and he sees him, but it just goes on. Like it keeps going. It's like, we get it. He's found his friend on the island. Yeah. He saves him. Just move on.
It's something they could show in like 10, 20 seconds, but they somehow drag it on 3 to 5 minutes.
And it's insane because the movie's an hour 20 minutes. It's already short as fuck, but it doesn't feel like it at all. That felt so long.
Like, I just enjoyed like the fight, and after that, I didn't really care for the rest of the film at all.
Not that I really
you-
cared about the human stuff, but I don't know. It wasn't horrible. In the first one, I really didn't care about the
Oh, it
humans.
wasn't terrible. I was gonna say I don't. It's not like it was unbearable, but it was just
It felt like another movie.
boring.
It was like
It
really
did.
disconnected.
It felt disconnected, and it was just kind of boring.
Again, I think even the newer Godzilla movies, they all suffer from that. We just want to see Godzilla.
They do. The 2014 remake was like 10 minutes of Godzilla in the whole film.
Exactly.
I don't know why it's so hard. Like, I just
It's
wanna see
because
the
it's a lot of
monsters fight.
work. I mean, I get it. Like, having these guys in rubber suits for an hour, 30 minutes, like, what can you do with that? Especially back
Yeah.
then.
I feel like they're kind of just things you would just look up on YouTube and watch the fight scene. That's really
It
all
is.
you need. Yeah.
You don't need to watch the rest of this movie. Just look up Anguirus vs. Godzilla, and that's all you need to see.
Say watch a 10-minute fight, and then you don't really need the rest. You could have fit this in an hour time slot on a TV
It could have been an episode of a TV show.
I would say you could have made this like 30 minutes.
So with all that said, just as boring as the first one for me, although it removes all the symbolism. Anguirus makes up some points for that because he was so cool, and I love his roar, and the sound design is still like on par with the first one. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. That's average on my scale. I don't really know if I'd say it's average, but it's just so hard to say because the Anguirus part's so awesome. The rest of it's just so bland, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it balances out to a 5 for me. It's like Attack of the Clones for me almost, where it's like I really enjoyed that stuff, and that's what sticks with me, but the rest of it's so shit.
Oh no, that's kind of what I'm thinking. The parts when Godzilla wasn't on, it just flat out didn't even felt like a completely different movie. Ugh, I don't know. I'd give it a D+.
Fuck, am I ever gonna find something worse than Eraserhead?
I already have a movie in mind.
60%
60?
for critics, really?
Do they like that weird?
Well, I mean, to be
stuff?
fair, this is, if you average these, that's what I gave it.
I was just right below average.
Yeah, you're more on par with
Grading.
the audience. This is a great horror film. Love the military, but some, not all, of Anguirus' roar is half Godzilla roar for a little bit. But I thought I can't say I don't really like it just because of the roar. Then I thought I really love it. Watch it. I hope you well like it. Horror film?
I also didn't. None of this made sense.
All of it's just because of the roar. And he didn't even like the roar. And I thought that was the coolest part. I thought that this was one of the best Godzilla movies I have ever seen. It had incredible action scenes, and the subplot was passable. It also introduced one of my favorite kaiju ever, Anguirus. I would recommend. What?
I mean, action. I like the fight.
Scenes plural? Maybe one incredible.
That's what I was
action
gonna
scene.
say. I was like, it was only, and the subplot was passable.
It is passable. That is accurate. It's just funny that it said subplot was passable, and then one of the best Godzilla movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, boy, what does that mean for the other one?
Again, I feel like most of these people don't watch the movie, or they haven't seen it since they were a kid. They have to fast forward or something. There's no way these people sat through the whole thing and gave it a 5 or a 4 star.
I would have fast forward.
Japanese version is just bad. It's boring, which is a cardinal sin of any Godzilla movie, but at least Anguirus is in it, and the destruction scenes are pretty good. Avoid its American version at all costs.
Wait,
What
which
is
one did
We watched the Japanese version. I think the American version might be the really long one.